I never thought my own son would put his hands on me. Not like that. Not in front of everyone. The dinner table was full that Sunday evening. My children, their spouses, my grandchildren, all crammed into my small dining room like we did every month. I'd spent all day cooking: fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie. The works. My hands were still sore from kneading that cornbread dough, but I didn't mind. This was what I did. This was what family meant. I was carrying the last dish to the table, my famous peach cobbler, still steaming, when it happened. I was heading toward my usual seat at the head of the table, right next to where little Amara, my youngest grandbaby, always sat. She was only 7, and she loved sitting next to her Grammy. But Terrence stood up so fast his chair scraped against my hardwood floor. My oldest son, the one I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college, blocked my path. "Mama, no," he said, his voice cold. "You can't sit there tonight." I blinked, confused, still holding that hot cobbler dish. "What do you mean I can't sit there? This is my house." "Exactly," Valencia, his wife, chimed in from across the table. She was wearing one of those expensive blazers that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "It's your house, which is exactly why we need to talk about some changes." My daughter Cynthia wouldn't look at me. My younger son Devin was suddenly very interested in his phone. Only little Amara was watching me with those big, worried eyes. "Terrence, baby, I don't understand," I said softly. "Let me just put this cobbler down." "You can sit over there," he interrupted, pointing to a folding chair they'd set up in the corner, away from the main table, away from everyone. "We have important family business to discuss, and honestly, Mama..." He glanced at Valencia, who nodded encouragingly. "You're just too embarrassing to sit with us right now." The words hit me like a slap. The cobbler dish trembled in my hands. "Embarrassing?" I whispered. "Look at you," Valencia said, not even trying to hide the disgust in her voice. "Your clothes are from 10 years ago. You smell like cooking grease. You still work at that little church thrift store like you're poor or something. It reflects badly on us, on our image." "Your image?" My voice cracked. "Mama, just go sit down," Terrence said. And then he did it. He actually did it. He put his hand on my shoulder and pushed, not hard enough to make me fall, but hard enough to move me away from my own table, hard enough to make it clear I wasn't wanted. Valencia laughed. Not a big laugh, just a small, cruel snicker that said everything about what she thought of me. I stumbled back a step, still holding that cobbler. My heart was breaking right there in my own dining room, in front of my own children, my own grandchildren. Amara's bottom lip was trembling. She looked like she wanted to cry. That's when my phone buzzed in my apron pocket. Once, twice, 3 times. The special pattern that meant an important message. My hands were shaking as I pulled it out, nearly dropping the cobbler in the process. I set the dish down on the side table, my vision blurry with tears I refused to let fall. The screen lit up bright, and there, clear as day, was a text message from a contact that made my breath catch. Jonathan Pemberton, CEO, First National Bank. The preview was visible to anyone close enough to see. "Mrs. Williams, confirming receipt of your 2.4M wire transfer. Thank you for your confidence in our institution. Your investment portfolio is now active. Looking forward to our lunch meeting on Tuesday to discuss." The phone kept glowing in my hand. Terrence had frozen mid-step. Valencia's smirk was sliding off her face. Cynthia finally looked up, her eyes going wide. Even Devin put down his phone. Another text came through, this one from my attorney, Gerald Hutchins. "Odessa, the trust documents are filed. Your grandchildren's education funds are secure. Nobody can touch them. Call me tomorrow." Then a third message. From Pastor Reynolds at Cornerstone Baptist. "Sister Odessa, the Community Center Board voted unanimously. Your donation will transform this neighborhood. God bless you." I looked at that phone. I looked at my children's faces. I looked at little Amara, who was watching me with those big eyes, not understanding what was happening, but knowing something had changed. Then I looked at Terrence, my firstborn, the son I'd sacrificed everything for. And I smiled. Not a happy smile. A knowing smile. "I need to take this call," I said quietly. "It's important." "Mama," Terrence's voice had lost all its confidence. "Mama, wait." "No, baby," I said, walking toward the door. "You told me to move, so I'm moving." Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Now, you probably want to know how a 72-year-old woman who works at a church thrift store ended up with millions of dollars and a bank CEO texting her personal phone. Well, that story starts 6 months earlier, on the day I buried my sister Ruth. Ruth was my baby sister, 5 years younger than me, and she was the smart one. The one who got out of our small Alabama town and made something of herself up in New York. She became a real estate developer, bought and sold buildings, made more money than our parents could have ever dreamed of. We talked every Sunday without fail, for 47 years. Every single Sunday, 9 a.m. sharp, we'd be on that phone. She never married, never had kids. Said the ones I had were enough for both of us. She loved my children like they were her own. Sent them birthday cards with crisp $100 bills inside. Paid for Terrence's college textbooks when I came up short. Bought Cynthia her first car. She was Aunt Ruthie, and they loved her. Or I thought they did. The funeral was small, like she wanted. Just family and a few close friends from her building in Manhattan. The lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Gerald Hutchins, approached me after the service. He handed me a business card and said 6 words that changed everything. "Mrs. Williams, we need to talk." I met him the next day at his office in downtown Manhattan. The building was so tall I got dizzy looking up at it. His office had windows that overlooked the whole city. I'd never been somewhere so fancy. I was wearing my good black dress, the one I wore to church on Easter, and I felt small in that big leather chair across from his desk. "Your sister left everything to you," he said, sliding papers across the desk. "The entire estate." I stared at the numbers. My eyes couldn't make sense of them. There were too many zeros. "That can't be right," I whispered. "It's very right," Gerald said gently. Ruth was worth approximately $8 million when she passed. Her buildings, her investments, her savings, it all goes to you. She was very clear about that in her will. $8 million. I'd never even seen $1 million. I'd spent my whole life scraping by on my salary from the thrift store and my late husband's small pension. My house was paid off only because we'd bought it 40 years ago when houses cost what a car costs now. I clipped coupons. I bought day-old bread. I wore the same winter coat for 15 years. And now I had $8 million. "There's more," Gerald said. "Ruth left specific instructions. She wanted this kept quiet until you decided what to do with it. She also left letters for you, 37 of them to be exact. 1 for each month she was sick and didn't tell you." That broke me. I cried right there in that fancy office, tears falling onto those papers with all those zeros. Ruth had been sick for 3 years. Cancer, the quiet kind that grows slow. And she never said a word. Never wanted to worry me. Never wanted me to see her weak. "She was sick for 3 years?" I asked through my tears. "Yes, ma'am. She wanted to handle it on her own terms, and she wanted to make sure you were taken care of after she was gone. These letters..." He handed me a box, wooden and beautiful with my name carved into the top. "She wrote these for you. One thing she asked, she wanted you to wait and watch your children before you told them about the money. She wanted you to see who they really were." I didn't understand what Ruth meant at the time. My children were good people. Terrence was a successful architect. Cynthia was a nurse. Devin was a high school teacher. They had good jobs, good lives. They didn't need my money. But Ruth knew something I didn't. I took that box home to my small house in Queens. That night, I opened the first letter. It was dated 3 years earlier, right after her diagnosis. "My dearest Odessa," it began in Ruth's perfect handwriting. "By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't be sad for me. I lived a full life, made my peace with God, and I'm ready. But I need to tell you some things about your children that I never had the heart to say while I was alive. Last month, when Terrence called me, he didn't ask how I was doing. He asked if I was planning to sell my building in Brooklyn. He said he had a friend who could flip it for twice what it's worth, and could I give him first dibs? He didn't call to check on his aunt. He called for business. When I said no, he didn't call again for 2 months. My hands shook as I read. Letter after letter, Ruth had documented it all. Cynthia calling to ask for money for a medical emergency that turned out to be a vacation. Devin asking if Ruth could co-sign a loan for a car he couldn't afford. Valencia, who'd married Terrence 5 years ago, asking Ruth point blank how much she was worth and if she'd updated her will lately. They'd been circling my sister like vultures, and she'd watched it all, documented it all, protected me from knowing it all until I had the money to protect myself. "Wait and watch them," the last letter said. "Don't tell them yet. Just watch. See what they do when they think you have nothing. Then you'll know who deserves your trust and who deserves your distance. I love you, sister. Take care of my babies, your grandbabies. They're the only ones who loved me for me." So I waited. And I watched. At first, everything seemed normal. We had our monthly Sunday dinners. They called me every week. But then I started noticing small things. The way Terrence would sigh when I asked him to help fix my porch railing, like it was such an inconvenience. The way Valencia would look at my furniture like it was trash. The way Cynthia never invited me to her new house. She'd moved to a bigger place in Long Island and somehow never had time for me to visit. Then, about 3 months after Ruth died, Terrence came by on a Wednesday. He never came by on Wednesdays. He sat in my kitchen, drank the coffee I made him, and said, "Mama, we need to talk about your future." My future? I was 72 years old. My future was pretty clear. "You're living alone in this house, working at that thrift store. Mama, you're getting older. What happens when you can't take care of yourself anymore?" "I take care of myself just fine, baby." "But what about when you can't? Me, Cynthia, and Devin have been talking. We think it's time to consider assisted living. There's a nice facility in New Jersey." "I don't need assisted living, Terrence. I'm healthy as a horse." "But this house, Mama, it's too big for you, and it's worth money. A lot of money. The market is hot right now. If we sold it, we could—" "We?" I interrupted. "Who is we?" He had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I mean, you could sell it, and we could help you manage the money. Make sure it's used wisely for your care." That's when I understood what Ruth had been warning me about. My own son wanted my house, wanted to put me in a home and take the only thing I had left of my life with his father. I smiled at him, that same smile I'd give him when he was a boy and lied about breaking a window. "That's sweet of you to worry, baby, but I'm fine right here." He pushed harder over the next months. So did Cynthia. So did Valencia, who started showing up uninvited to help me organize, which really meant she was going through my things, probably looking for valuables or bank statements. She'd ask questions about my finances, about Ruth's estate, about whether Ruth had left me anything. Just some personal items, I'd say. Letters and such. The truth was, I'd met with Gerald 3 times since Ruth died. I'd set up trusts for my 4 grandchildren, Terrence's daughter Amara, Cynthia's twins Jordan and Destiny, and Devin's son Marcus. $100,000 each locked away for college, untouchable by their parents. I'd made donations to my church, to the community center where I volunteered, to the food bank. I'd invested wisely, and I'd started planning. I'd also started making friends. Real friends. The kind Ruth had wanted me to have. There was Loretta. No, wait, I can't use that name. There was Francine, who worked at the bank and had noticed my unusual account activity. We'd started talking, and she'd become a real friend. There was Pastor Reynolds, who'd known me for 30 years and had watched my children grow up. He'd seen the change in them, too. And there was Gerald, my lawyer, who'd grown to care about my case like it was personal. "Your sister was smart to warn you," Gerald had said at our last meeting. "I've seen this too many times. Adult children who feel entitled to their parents' assets, who can't wait for inheritance, who want control. You're doing the right thing protecting yourself and those grandkids." So when Terrence invited me to a family dinner to discuss important matters, I knew what was coming. I baked that peach cobbler. I wore my oldest clothes. I didn't mention the bank appointment I had the next day, or the lunch with the CEO, or the investment portfolio that was now worth over $10 million thanks to smart management. I just showed up to my own house like always, ready to serve my family like always, not knowing my son was about to push me away from my own table. But here's the thing nobody knew yet. I'd stopped being the woman they could push around about 3 months ago, right around the time Cynthia had accidentally let it slip that they'd already talked to a real estate agent about my house. Right around the time Valencia had suggested I might have dementia and should probably get evaluated. Right around the time Devin had asked if I'd updated my will lately and could he see a copy, just to make sure everything was in order. That's when I'd made my decision. That's when I'd called Gerald and said, "Let's move forward with everything." Now, standing in my kitchen doorway with my phone glowing in my hand, watching my son's face go pale as he realized he'd made a terrible mistake, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. I walked out of that dining room. I heard chairs scraping behind me, heard Valencia's sharp voice saying, "Terrence, who is that texting her? Terrence, did you see those numbers? Terrence, why does she have the bank CEO's number?" I heard Cynthia say, "Mama, wait, let's talk about this." I heard Devin say, "Is that about Aunt Ruth's estate? Mama, you said there was nothing." And I heard little Amara's voice, small and confused. Why did Daddy push Grammy? I closed the kitchen door behind me and stood in my backyard, in the garden I'd tended for 40 years. The night air was cool, the city sounds were distant, and my phone was ringing. It was Gerald. "Odessa," he said when I answered. "I just got a notification. Your son Terrence just did a property search on your house. He's looking at the deed, the tax records, everything. I think he's planning to make a move." "Let him," I said quietly. "I'm ready." "Are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. Your children are going to be very angry." I thought about that push, about Valencia's laugh, about being told I was too embarrassing to sit at my own table, about little Amara's trembling lip. "I'm sure," I said. "File the papers tomorrow, all of them." "Consider it done. Odessa? Your sister would be proud of you." I hung up and looked at my house through the kitchen window. I could see them all gathered in there, probably going through my papers right now, looking for answers. Looking for money, looking for control. They had no idea what was coming. I had no idea it would get so much worse before it got better. But that's a story for tomorrow. Tonight, I had a cobbler getting cold and grandchildren who needed to see that their Grammy wasn't going anywhere. At least, not the way they thought. I walked back inside and every head turned to look at me. The room was completely silent. "Well," I said pleasantly, setting my phone face down on the counter, "who wants dessert?" Nobody wanted dessert. They wanted answers. Terrence was the first to break the silence. "Mama, we need to talk." "Right now." "About what, baby?" I asked, cutting into that peach cobbler like nothing had happened, like my own son hadn't just pushed me away from my own table 5 minutes earlier. Valencia stood up, her expensive heels clicking on my kitchen floor. Don't play dumb, Odessa. We saw those texts. Bank CEO, investment portfolio, $2.4 million. I noticed she'd dropped the mama and gone straight to my first name. That told me everything. Oh, that, I said, spooning cobbler onto a paper plate for Amara, who was watching everything with those big, scared eyes. Just some financial business. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about? Terrence's voice was getting louder. Mama, where did you get that kind of money? I handed the plate to Amara with a smile. Baby, take this to the living room. Grammy's got some grown-up talking to do. The other grandchildren, Jordan, Destiny, and Marcus, followed her out quickly. They knew when adults were about to fight. I waited until I heard the TV turn on before I turned back to my children. Where did I get the money? I repeated slowly. From my sister. Your Aunt Ruth. The one whose funeral y'all barely cried at. Cynthia had the grace to look ashamed. Mama, we loved Aunt Ruth. Did you? I asked. Because Ruth kept letters. 37 of them, documenting every time y'all called her asking for money, asking about her will, asking when she was going to sell her buildings. She was sick for 3 years, and not one of you noticed because you only called when you wanted something. The room went dead quiet. That's not fair, Devin said, but his voice was weak. You know it's not fair. My voice was shaking now, all the anger I'd been holding in finally coming out. Working 3 jobs to put you through school, Terrence, sacrificing everything so you could be an architect. And today, in my own house, you pushed me. You told me I was too embarrassing to sit at my own table. Mama, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. I looked at each of them. Ruth knew. She warned me. She said, don't tell them about the money yet. Watch them first. See who they really are. And I watched. And I saw. Valencia crossed her arms. So what, you've been testing us? That's manipulative. I actually laughed. I'm manipulative? Valencia, you've been in my house 3 times this month, going through my closets, my drawers, my papers. You think I didn't notice? You were looking for bank statements. Looking for Ruth's will. Looking for anything you could use. Her face went red. I was helping you organize. You were snooping, I said flatly. And Terrence, you did a property search on my house today. While I was cooking dinner for you, my lawyer called and told me. Terrence's mouth fell open. How did you... I have a lawyer now. A good one. His name is Gerald Hutchins, and he handles estates for people a lot richer than me. Ruth left me everything, her buildings, her investments, her savings. $8 million when she died, more than $10 million now with smart investing. I watched their faces change. Shock, anger, greed. It all flashed across their expressions in seconds. 10 million? Cynthia whispered. And you didn't tell us? Terrence's shock was turning to rage. We're your children. We had a right to know. Why? I asked simply. So you could do exactly what you're doing right now? Look at yourselves. 5 minutes ago, you were trying to make me sit in the corner like a child. Now you're mad because I have money and didn't tell you. This isn't about caring for me. This is about what you think you're entitled to. We're your family, Valencia shouted. That money should be split between... That money is mine, I said quietly. Ruth left it to me, not to you, not to her nieces and nephews, to me, and I've already decided what to do with it. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. What does that mean? Terrence asked slowly. It means I've set up trust funds for my grandchildren, 100,000 each for college, locked away where none of you can touch it. It means I've made donations to my church, my community center, my food bank. It means I've invested in my future, bought some property, secured my retirement. And it means I've updated my will. You updated your will without telling us? Cynthia looked like she might faint. Why would I tell you? So you could try to change my mind? So you could bring lawyers and doctors to prove I'm incompetent? Don't think I didn't hear you, Valencia, suggesting I might have dementia. This is insane, Terrence said, pacing now. Mama, you're not thinking clearly. You need to slow down. Let us help you manage this money properly. I don't need your help, I said. I have financial advisors, I have lawyers, I have a bank CEO who personally handles my accounts. What I don't have anymore is children who push me around in my own house. So what? Devin spoke up for the first time, and his voice was bitter. You're just gonna cut us out? After everything we've done for you? What have you done for me? I asked. The question hung in the air. Terrence, when was the last time you fixed something in my house without complaining? Cynthia, when was the last time you invited me to your home? Devin, when was the last time you called just to talk, not to ask for something? None of them answered. I'm not cutting you out, I said quietly. But I'm not letting you control me either. This is my money, my life, my house, and if you can't respect that, then maybe we need some distance. Valencia grabbed her purse. Terrence, we're leaving. Your mother clearly doesn't appreciate— My mother, I interrupted, is standing right here, and I'm not done talking. But they were done listening. Terrence grabbed his jacket. Cynthia was already herding her twins toward the door. Devin wouldn't even look at me. Y'all are really gonna leave? I asked. Just like that? You lied to us, Terrence said at the door. You had millions of dollars and you let us think you were poor. You let us worry about you. You weren't worried about me, I said. You were worried about what would happen to my house when I died. There's a difference. He left without another word. They all did. Within 5 minutes, my house was empty except for me and the sound of the TV in the living room where my grandbabies were watching cartoons, probably trying to pretend they hadn't heard their parents yelling. I walked into the living room. 4 pairs of eyes looked up at me. Amara, Jordan, Destiny, and Marcus. They ranged from 7 to 13 years old, and they all looked scared. Grammy, Amara said in a small voice, are Mama and Daddy mad at you? I sat down on the couch between them, and immediately all 4 grandchildren piled around me like they used to when they were smaller. They're mad right now, I said honestly. But sometimes grown-ups get mad when things don't go the way they expect. Are you rich? Jordan asked. He was 13 and too smart for his own good. I'm comfortable, I said carefully. They said $10 million, Destiny added. She was Jordan's twin and just as sharp. I sighed. No point lying to them. Your great-aunt Ruth left me money when she died, and yes, it's a lot, but that doesn't change anything between me and you. You know why? Why? Little Marcus asked. He was only 8. Because I loved you before I had money, and I love you the same now that I do. Money doesn't change love. It just shows you who loves you for real and who loves you for what you can give them. Amara hugged me tighter. I love you for real, Grammy. I know you do, baby. We sat like that for a while, watching TV, eating that peach cobbler straight from the pan. Around 9 p.m., my phone started ringing. First Terrence, then Cynthia, then Devin. I didn't answer. Then Valencia called, and I definitely didn't answer that. Finally, around 10 p.m., I got a text from Terrence. Mama, we need to talk tomorrow. This isn't over. You're clearly not in the right state of mind to manage this money. We're going to take legal action to protect you from yourself. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Gerald with a note. This is what you warned me about, isn't it? He called me 30 seconds later. Odessa, I need you to listen very carefully, Gerald said. That message is a threat. Your son is talking about filing for conservatorship or guardianship. He's going to try to prove you're mentally incompetent so he can control your finances. My hands went cold. Can he do that? He can try, but he won't succeed. We've been preparing for this. Remember when I had you meet with Dr. Patricia Owens last month? I did remember. Gerald had sent me to a psychiatrist who'd spent 2 hours evaluating me, asking me questions, testing my memory. That evaluation proved you're completely mentally competent, Gerald continued. Sharp as a tack, actually. She said you scored better than most 50-year-olds on the cognitive tests. We have documentation. But Odessa, this is going to get ugly. Are you ready for that? Do I have a choice? You always have a choice. You could give them what they want, split the money, make them happy. I thought about that push, about being told I was too embarrassing, about Valencia's laugh. No, I said. I'm not rewarding bad behavior. My mama didn't raise me that way. Then we fight, Gerald said. And I promise you, we'll win. After I hung up, I called the grandkids' parents to come get them. When Terrence arrived, he wouldn't look at me, just collected Amara and left. Cynthia sent her husband to get the twins. Devin came himself, but he wouldn't come inside, just waited in the car while Marcus put on his shoes. Grammy, Marcus whispered at the door. Don't let them take your money. Great Aunt Ruth wanted you to have it. Smart kid. After they all left, I sat alone in my house for the first time since dinner. The kitchen was a mess. The dining room table still had dishes on it. My phone kept buzzing with messages I didn't want to read. I cleaned up slowly, washing each dish by hand like my mama taught me. There was something peaceful about the hot water, the soap, the routine. By the time I finished, it was midnight, and I was exhausted. I was about to go to bed when someone knocked on my door. Not a friendly knock, a hard, demanding knock. I looked through the peephole. It was Terrence and Valencia, and they weren't alone. They had another man with them, someone I'd never seen before, holding a clipboard. I opened the door with the chain still on. It's midnight, Terrence. Mama, this is Dr. Howard Chen. He's a psychiatrist. We need you to come with us for an evaluation. My blood ran cold. An evaluation? We're concerned about your mental state, Valencia said, like she was reading from a script. You're displaying signs of paranoia, making irrational financial decisions, isolating yourself from family. I'm not going anywhere, I said. Mama, you don't have a choice, Terrence said, and there was something in his voice that scared me. We have paperwork. We can have you evaluated whether you want to or not. On whose authority? I asked. On mine, the doctor said. I'm authorized to perform emergency psychiatric evaluations when family members express concern about immediate danger. Immediate danger? I almost laughed. I'm standing in my own house at midnight. The only danger here is what y'all are trying to do to me. Mrs. Williams, the doctor said more gently, your son is very concerned. He says you've been acting erratically, making large financial transactions without consulting family, displaying signs of paranoia and delusion. I'll tell you what's a delusion, I said. Thinking you can show up at my house after midnight with some doctor I've never met and intimidate me into going anywhere. I know my rights, and I know you can't force me to go for an evaluation unless I'm in immediate danger to myself or others. Am I threatening anyone? Am I threatening myself? The doctor looked uncomfortable. No, but... Then get off my porch before I call the police. I pulled out my phone. And for the record, doctor, you might want to ask my son why he's really here. It's not about my mental health. It's about $10 million he wants to control. I saw the doctor's expression change. He looked at Terrence, then back at me. I think we should all calm down, he said. Mr. Williams, perhaps we should come back in the morning when everyone's had time to... We're coming back with a court order, Valencia said sharply. Come on, Terrence. They left, but I knew this wasn't over. I locked every lock on my door, closed every curtain, and called Gerald again. They just tried to take me for a psychiatric evaluation, I told him, at midnight. With some doctor I've never met. Gerald was quiet for a long moment. That's illegal on several levels. Did they threaten you? They said they'd come back with a court order. Let them try. Tomorrow morning, first thing, we're filing a restraining order. And Odessa, pack a bag. I think you should stay somewhere else for a few days. Do you have somewhere safe? I thought about my house, the one I'd lived in for 40 years. The house where I'd raised my children, where my husband had died, where I'd spent every Christmas and Easter and Sunday dinner. The house that suddenly didn't feel safe anymore. I'll figure something out, I said. After I hung up, I sat in my dark living room listening to every sound. Every car that drove by could be them coming back. Every creak of the house settling made me jump. This was what I'd become, a 72-year-old woman, afraid in her own home because her own children wanted her money more than they wanted her. Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Sister Odessa, this is Francine from the bank. I know it's late, but I heard about what happened. My guest room is ready if you need somewhere to stay. No questions asked. Just somewhere safe. I stared at that text for a long time. Francine was the bank teller who'd become my friend, who'd helped me understand my new financial reality, who'd invited me to dinner with her family and never once asked me for anything. Real friendship, Ruth's last letter had said, is when someone helps you without wanting something in return. I texted back, I'll be there in 30 minutes. I packed a bag with shaking hands, clothes, toiletries, my medications, and Ruth's box of letters. The important papers were already with Gerald. My jewelry, what little I had, went into my purse. I took one last look around my house, at the photos on the walls, the furniture I'd bought piece by piece over decades, the life I'd built. Then I walked out into the night, got in my 15-year-old car, and drove to Francine's apartment in Brooklyn. She was waiting outside when I pulled up, even though it was almost 3 a.m. She hugged me like I was family, took my bag, and led me inside without asking a single question about why I was showing up in the middle of the night. You're safe here, she said simply. My daughter's at college, so her room is yours as long as you need it. I slept that night in a stranger's house, or what used to be a stranger until she became more family than my own blood. And I slept better than I had in months, because I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't alone in this fight. But the next morning, everything got worse. Because when I woke up and checked my phone, I had 17 missed calls and a text from Pastor Reynolds that made my heart stop. Sister Odessa, call me immediately. Terrence and Valencia are at the church. They're telling people you've lost your mind and they need to take control of your affairs. They're asking the congregation to sign a petition supporting emergency guardianship. We need to stop this now. My own son was turning my church against me, and that's when I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. I got dressed in 5 minutes flat, threw on my church clothes, and had Francine drive me to Cornerstone Baptist. It was Wednesday morning, and there shouldn't have been anyone there except Pastor Reynolds and maybe the cleaning crew. But when we pulled into the parking lot, there were at least 20 cars. My children had called an emergency meeting of the church elders. You want me to come in with you? Francine asked. No, I said, though my hands were shaking. This is something I need to face myself. The fellowship hall was full when I walked in. Pastor Reynolds was at the front, looking tired and frustrated. Terrence and Valencia sat at a table with stacks of papers in front of them. Cynthia and Devin were there too, and scattered around the room were members of my church, people I'd known for 30 years, people I'd served beside at the food bank, people I'd prayed with, cried with, celebrated with. They were all staring at me like I was a stranger. Mama, Terrence stood up, and his voice was all concern and sweetness. Mama, we're so glad you're here. We've been worried sick. You disappeared last night. After you showed up at my house at midnight with a psychiatrist to have me committed, I said clearly, loudly, so everyone could hear. Let's tell the whole truth, Terrence. The room went silent. Valencia stood up and she had tears in her eyes. Fake tears, but convincing ones. Odessa, we're just trying to help you. You're not yourself. You're making rash decisions, pushing away your family, giving away millions of dollars to strangers. I haven't given away anything to strangers, I said. I set up college funds for my grandchildren. I made donations to this church, to our community center, to our food bank. That's not rash. That's responsible. But you didn't consult us, Terrence said. And there it was. The real issue. Mama, we're your family. Decisions this big should involve all of us. Why? I asked simply. It's my money. Because we love you, Cynthia said, speaking up for the first time. Mama, we're scared. Aunt Ruth just died, and suddenly you have all this money and you're not acting like yourself. You're paranoid, you think we're trying to hurt you. Are you not? I interrupted. Terrence did a property search on my house. Valencia's been going through my belongings. Y'all tried to have me evaluated by a psychiatrist at midnight without my consent. Devin asked to see my will. What part of that is love? We were trying to protect you, Devin said. From what? From having control over my own life? Pastor Reynolds cleared his throat. Now let's everybody calm down. Sister Odessa, your children asked me to call this meeting because they're concerned. They've shown me some documents. What documents? I asked. Valencia slid papers across the table. Bank statements showing erratic spending patterns, large transfers, multiple real estate purchases. Mama, you bought 3 buildings in the last month. 3 buildings! Without telling anyone, without consulting a financial advisor. I have a financial advisor, I said. I have 3, actually, and a lawyer who manages my estate. His name is Gerald Hutchins. Should I call him right now so he can explain to everyone here that I'm perfectly competent and these purchases were smart investments? I pulled out my phone, but Terrence held up his hand. We've already spoken to a lawyer, he said. Our lawyer says that given your age and the sudden acquisition of wealth, combined with unusual behavior patterns, we have grounds to file for emergency guardianship. Your lawyer is wrong, said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. Gerald Hutchins walked into that fellowship hall in a 3-piece suit, carrying a briefcase, looking like justice itself. I'm Mrs. Williams' attorney, Gerald said, setting his briefcase on the table, and I'm here to inform everyone that any attempt to file for guardianship will be met with immediate legal action. Mrs. Williams has been thoroughly evaluated by Dr. Patricia Owens, a licensed psychiatrist, who found her to be completely mentally competent. That evaluation is dated and notarized. He pulled out papers and spread them on the table. Furthermore, Mrs. Williams's financial decisions have been reviewed and approved by 3 independent financial advisors. Her real estate purchases are sound investments that have already appreciated in value. Her charitable donations are tax-deductible and benefit the community. And her decision to set up trust funds for her grandchildren is not only legal, but commendable. Valencia's face was turning red. You can't just... I can, and I have, Gerald continued. I've also filed restraining orders against all 3 of Mrs. Williams' children for harassment, attempted coercion, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. The midnight visit with Dr. Chen was illegal and threatening. You're lucky I'm not pressing criminal charges. The room exploded. People were talking over each other, asking questions, demanding answers. But I just watched my children's faces as they realized they'd lost. This is ridiculous, Terrence shouted. She's turned you all against us. Can't you see? She's the one manipulating everyone. No, Pastor Reynolds said quietly. I think we all see clearly now, son. He stood up and faced the congregation. I've known Sister Odessa for 30 years. In that time, she's never asked this church for a dime. She's worked in our thrift store, volunteered at our food bank, helped cook for every funeral and wedding and church dinner we've ever had. When she got her sister's inheritance, she could have disappeared. She could have moved to a mansion and forgotten about us. Instead, she donated $100,000 to renovate our community center. She set up a scholarship fund for our youth. She's the same woman she's always been, just with the resources now to do more good. He looked at Terrence. But you, son, you showed up at her house at midnight with a doctor to try to have your own mother committed. You did a property search on her house while she was cooking you dinner. You pushed her away from her own table and told her she was too embarrassing to sit with you. How did you? Terrence started. Little Amara told my wife, Pastor Reynolds said sadly. Your 7-year-old daughter called my wife crying last night, asking if Grammy was going to be okay. She saw everything. And you know what breaks my heart? That child has more wisdom and love than any of you showed your mother. Cynthia was crying now, real tears this time. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, and you just wanted the money, I said quietly. And I understand that. Money makes people crazy. It shows you who they really are. But here's what you need to understand. I'm not giving you control of my life. Not now, not ever. This is my money, my choice, my future. So that's it? Devin said bitterly. You're just cutting us out of your life? I'm not cutting you out, I said. But I'm setting boundaries. If you want a relationship with me, it's going to be on my terms. No more showing up uninvited. No more going through my things. No more questioning my decisions. And absolutely no more trying to have me declared incompetent. And if we can't accept that? Valencia asked coldly. Then you won't see me anymore, I said simply. And more importantly, you won't see your children. That got their attention. You can't keep us from our kids, Terrence said. I can't, I agreed. But I can refuse to babysit. I can refuse to host family dinners. I can refuse to be the grandmother you call when you need something. And those trust funds I set up? They come with conditions. If you try to access them, if you pressure your children about them, if you use those kids to manipulate me, the funds go to charity instead. Gerald nodded. It's all legal and binding. Mrs. Williams has every right to set terms for her grandchildren's inheritance. I watched my children process this. They'd come here thinking they could turn my church against me, get guardianship, control my money. Instead, they were walking away with nothing but restraining orders and the knowledge that they'd destroyed their relationship with their mother over greed. The meeting broke up slowly. People came to hug me, to apologize for doubting me, to tell me they'd always known I was strong. My children left without saying goodbye, though I saw Cynthia looking back at me with something that might have been regret. Pastor Reynolds walked me to my car. Well, to Francine's car. Sister Odessa, he said gently, I'm proud of you. Standing up for yourself like that takes courage. I learned from the best, I said. Ruth always told me never to let anyone make me small. Took me 72 years to really understand what she meant. Over the next few weeks, things settled into a new normal. I stayed with Francine for a while, then bought myself a beautiful brownstone in a quiet neighborhood in Queens. It had 3 bedrooms, one for me, one for guests, and one that I turned into a craft room where I could sew and read and just be. Terrence and Valencia didn't speak to me for 2 months. Cynthia called once, crying, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. We talked for 3 hours, and by the end, I think we both understood each other better. She'd gotten caught up in her brother's schemes, following along because she was scared of being left out. It didn't excuse what she did, but it explained it. Devin sent a letter. It was short. Mama, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I love you. It wasn't much, but it was honest, and that was a start. But the real healing came from my grandbabies. One Saturday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, all 4 grandchildren were standing there with Cynthia. Grammy, Amara said, holding out a bouquet of grocery store flowers. We miss you. I cried right there on my doorstep. Then I invited them all in, and we spent the afternoon baking cookies and watching movies and just being together. No talk about money, no drama. Just a grandmother and her grandbabies, the way it should be. Grammy, Jordan asked while we were rolling out cookie dough, did you really buy 3 buildings? I did, I admitted. That's so cool, Destiny said. What are you going to do with them? Well, I said, One is going to be a community center. One is going to be affordable housing for seniors. And one I'm keeping as an investment, because your great Aunt Ruth taught me that smart women always have their own money. Can we help with the community center? Marcus asked. I was hoping you'd ask, I said. That community center opened 6 months later. It had an after-school program, a library, a computer lab, and a commercial kitchen where we taught cooking classes. The kids helped me paint murals on the walls. Francine helped run the programs. Pastor Reynolds blessed the building. And on opening day, I saw my sister Ruth in every corner of that place, in the dreams she'd funded, in the community she'd helped me build, in the legacy she'd left behind. Terrence finally called me on what would have been Ruth's 72nd birthday. Mama, he said, and his voice was broken. I've been seeing a therapist, working through some things, and I need to tell you, I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I want your money, I don't, but because I forgot who you raised me to be. I forgot that integrity matters more than wealth. I forgot that you're my mother, not a bank account. Thank you for saying that, I said quietly. Valencia and I are separating, he continued. She couldn't accept that we weren't getting your money, but I realized I'd rather have my mother than millions of dollars I didn't earn. If you'll let me, I'd like to try to rebuild our relationship. No expectations, no agenda, just a son trying to make things right with his mama. I'd like that too, I said. It took time. It took therapy for all of us. Individual and family sessions where we worked through the hurt and betrayal and greed that had nearly destroyed us. It took honest conversations and hard truths and a lot of tears. But slowly, carefully, we rebuilt. Not the same relationship we'd had before. That was gone forever. But something new, something stronger. Something based on respect instead of expectation. Valencia moved to California and married a tech executive. I heard she's happy. I hope she is. Cynthia and her family come for dinner twice a month now. Devin brings Marcus over every Sunday, and we go to church together just like we used to. Terrence is still working on himself, but little Amara stays with me every other weekend, and she tells me her daddy is trying. That's all I can ask for, that they try. As for me, I'm 73 now. I wake up in my beautiful brownstone every morning and thank God for the life Ruth gave me. Not just the money, but the lesson. That you can't buy love, but you can buy freedom. You can buy safety. You can buy the power to say no when people try to take advantage of you. I still work at the church thrift store on Tuesdays. I still cook Sunday dinner, though now it's just for the people who want to be there, not the people who feel obligated. I still clip coupons because old habits die hard, even when you're worth millions. But I also travel now. I've seen Paris and Rome and Ghana, all the places Ruth always wanted us to visit together. I wear nice clothes when I want to. I eat at fancy restaurants. I tip generously. I help people who need help, not because I have to, but because I can. And every Sunday morning at 9 a.m., I sit in my craft room with a cup of coffee and read one of Ruth's letters. I've read them all dozens of times now, but they still teach me something new each time. About strength, about wisdom, about knowing your worth and never letting anyone make you small. The last letter ends with these words. Odessa, by the time you read this, you'll know whether your children loved you or loved what they thought they could get from you. Either way, you'll be free. Free to live your own life, make your own choices, be your own person. That's my final gift to you, sister. Not the money, the freedom. Use it well. Love you always, Ruth. I did use it well, Ruth. I promise you that. And I'm free. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.